Hello, it's good to see everybody again. If you're a returning viewer, it's great to have you. We're going to be talking about the water treatment plant, the reconstruction that we are currently doing on it. So in 2018, the plan was proposed at $257 million. It is to upgrade and reconstruct our water treatment facility. Initially, right now, it holds enough water on a daily basis to supply about 180,000 homes in Gilbert, which is about just a little over half of Gilbert's total population. It's our biggest water treatment facility. It's 36 years old. Usually in Arizona they last about 50 years, but obviously ours isn't. But in 2018, the project was proposed at $257 million. In 2021, they came back with a reproposal at $457 million. In 2022, when we first broke ground on this project, it went up to $545 million. And now in 2024, we're sitting at $667 million for this entire project. Now, you may ask yourself, why didn't they start it in 2018 when it was at $257 million? We don't know. They have refused to comment. I've tried to ask. I've gone in, had conversations, and they won't comment on these things. They won't even tell you who built the original water treatment facility. Evidently, they're not being completely, honest with us about what's going on, but that's been Gilbert Town Council for the last decade. So in relation to that, we need to ask why these things are happening. We need to go out and, advocate for ourselves. They're raising our water utility costs. This is phase one of 7. Currently, it raised $29.17 per month per person or per household, which is around $500 extra a year just in water cost. That's phase 1 out of 7. All the other phases are going to hit us just as hard as this one, and they expect that utility rate to just be okay. They expect us to foot the bill for it. And the other plan would have been the $667 million to rebuild it and upgrade it. But instead, we didn't want to take on $72 million in interest, so we said no. Instead of them paying that interest, now we are footing the bill for them. That, to me, is not okay. It's not how we should be operating. It doesn't make much sense. We already pay $1.2 billion in taxes per year for this, for this town. And it's not getting used properly, evidently. If it was, we wouldn't be in a situation like we are today. We shouldn't have broke ground on this project in 22. It should have been started in 2018. The minute we see the problems and we get the team and we give them a contract, we need to start work on these things. We have our pipes eroding. The pipes are supposed to last 75 to 100 years. They're not even 50 years. That's not okay. That's something that none of us should be okay with. That's not something that we should be allowing them to do to us. We need to speak out and advocate for ourselves. And like I noted in the last video, when this plan was proposed, it was either the $72 million in interest or we raise our rates. 600 people voted for it. And out of those 600 people, majority said, take the interest, pay it yourselves. It's going to cost us our tax dollars, but it won't be a raised rate increase every single year and every single 3 months. Where you come back and you go, okay, starting in April, it's $29.17. And then 3 months later, it's $29.17. And then 3 months later, it's $29.17. It adds up. Unfortunately, with the town of Gilbert, in the last 4 years, it's $19,000 on average more expensive to live here, just living here. That's with cost of housing, food cost, water cost, gas cost, all of these costs that add up, insurance costs, all of these things that we're taking on and that only affect us, but we have to foot the bill for their mistakes, their improper action, them not taking that and immediately starting work on it. When someone comes to you and says, hey, the pipes in your house are going to break in a year, what are you going to do? You're going to replace those pipes as soon as possible because that timeline comes very fast. This is pretty much what they said to us, but on a bigger scale. They came to us and said, hey, we need to do this now. And instead of doing it now, we have our current water treatment, the North Water Treatment Plant, eroding. The concrete's falling apart. Pieces of concrete fall off and they look behind it and they see the rebar is improperly placed. And to a sense, it's not exactly their fault for that, the failures that's happening. When the original plan was proposed, they had to take the lowest bid possible. That was a state mandate at the time. They said, you have to take the lowest bid. But now we bring in over $1 billion a year. There's no excuse that they can give to us as to why they haven't already started on this project. It's been 2 years in the making. It's 50% of the way complete. It is said to complete in 2028 or 2026. And it's unfortunate. For the next couple of years, our rates are just going to keep going up and up and up and up. And they say, okay, you guys foot the bill. They made the decision for us. Not enough people vote. Not enough people get their voices heard. And, to some of our residents, it may not affect us. But when you talk about our 13% elderly population, most of those people living on a fixed income, that $29 extra plus another $29 in 3 months, that hurts them. That hurts them a lot more than it will hurt me and you. We can go out and we can work more hours. These people are elderly. They've already worked their entire lives, and now you're throwing a bigger bill at them every other month. To me, that's not okay. These are, the most sensitive people we have. They don't have the resources we have. They don't have the time. They don't have the bodies anymore to be able to keep up that workload to go out and make more money. I just had a guy earlier this morning come to my door to paint on paint the numbers of our house, and in his 60s. Why is he out there doing it? Why is he coming to every house in the neighborhood saying, hey, we'll do this for you, I'll come out and do it for you, I'll paint the numbers on the curb? Because his rates are going up. Because he can't afford to live here anymore, but he's already decided, we're living here, they can't just get up and move. They have a mortgage, they have bills to pay, and you're stacking more and more and more bills on top of that. $667 million is this project. It was $257 million. That's not the fault of Gilbert's council. They don't, control inflation. They don't control rising costs and material. You can't exactly blame them for it, but you can blame them for the negligence that went behind it. The years that passed before they decided, okay, we'll start on this project. It shouldn't be a photo op for our previous town mayor. When they finally break ground, they have their 5-6 town council members out there with their shovels, acting like they're about to start digging and doing something. No, they take a photo when they go home. And then they post it to make us feel like they actually do something. They don't. They sit around all day. They don't listen to our opinions. They don't hear us out. They don't go with what we choose. And it's sad. That's all you can say. Every time I have a conversation with people, the only thing we can say about it is it's sad. But there's nothing me and you can currently do about it. They've already chosen what they're going to do. And if they don't revert what they chose to do, it will constantly, every 3 months, hit us, and then hit us again, and then hit us again. And there's nothing we can do about it. We can go out and picket them with some fence posts and a sign. But what is that going to do? What is that going to change? They've already made this decision for us, and now we're stuck with it. They can't just go out and change their mind and go, no, we're not going to take on that interest. We'll do this or we'll do that. No, it's not how it works. They've already given the contract. They've already decided how they're going to pay for it. They've already decided they don't want the $72 million of interest to be brought upon them. And to me, that's not okay. To our 13% of elderly people in Gilbert, that's not okay. It's unfortunate that our town council thinks so little of us, to the fact that they think that we can just keep doing this every other month. They can keep hitting us with a bigger bill and a bigger bill and a bigger bill, and we're just going to be okay with it. Give them a thumbs up, say, yeah, that's what we want. That's not what we want. I know me and the 1,600 other households I've talked to in the last 2-3 months, we do not want this. And some people, they don't understand, and they think, oh, well, it's water. We need water. Yes, we do need water. Desperately need water. But think about our pipes right now. If you live in Gilbert, go to your sink and run your water. Run your bathroom water. The water you put on your toothbrush every night to brush your teeth. Tell me how it smells. Tell me what it tastes like. Because it's not good. It's horrible. And that's what we're putting into our bodies every day, and they're acting like it's okay. They're upping our utility rates while they're killing us with our water. That's not okay. We need to stop. We need to stop them. We need to tell them we're not going to pay. We're not going to keep letting them raise our rates every other month. Hurting us, hurting our most sensitive communities, hurting the people that can't afford to live like that can't afford a utility rate every couple of months. When they raise our rates, but they don't raise our salaries, how are we supposed to afford these things? Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. If you wanted to be middle class in Gilbert right now, you would have to make $125,000 a year. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that was at $65,000 to $85,000 a year. We've doubled the middle class in just 2 to 4 years of life out here. And to me, that hurts. I look at my younger sister who's about to graduate high school, and she's choosing if she wants to go off to college, and she can't go to college because it's too expensive, but she can't move out of the house because living here is too expensive. So we have to send her somewhere else, Mesa, some place in Apache Junction where it's even more unsafe for her to live. And you have to sit there and you have to deal with that. They bring up they bring up the doctors and the people who need to come and live here for a little bit. They need these apartments, they need these certain things, and that's okay. That's fine. But our people can't afford that. Our young kids graduating high school, we can't afford that. When you keep footing us with the bill every other month, we can't keep living like this. It's impossible. They're paying us so little, and they're expecting us to pay them so much. If every other month they come back and they hit us with a bigger and bigger bill, my family, we can't afford that. My parents have been working their butts off every single year to make sure we have food, water. They're getting to work, they have gas, they have cars, they have their necessities. But we're starting to cut back. We don't know where we can make these cuts anymore. We don't know what we can do. The only other option would be foreclose on the mortgage and find somewhere else to live. And that's not okay. If you kick half of our population out of here because we can't afford to live out here, how quickly do you think the town would fail? How quickly would that tax money that they're getting and wasting, where would it go? If our water treatment facility blew up tomorrow, if something catastrophic happened to it, what would we do? What would the town of Gilbert do? What would they have to say for themselves? After drowning us in these bills every other month, drowning us in higher rates, it's not just water, it's sewage, it's garbage, it's electricity. The cost of living has doubled since last year. Not in the last 4, not in the last 10, not in the last decade, or 20. In the last year, it has doubled. The cost of insurance has doubled. You know why? Because we have constant hit and runs and constant red light runners. If we put our cameras up, if we spend the money to do it, which that's a good place to put money, we wouldn't have these problems. If we spent the money correctly, where the taxpayers want the money to go. You can't expect. There's an obvious correlation between someone getting hit, a hit and run, and then someone needing to hit and run. I'm not saying it's okay. It's not okay to hit and run. But when you have people that are drowning in bills every single month because they're raising our rates, they can't afford to pay for a car accident. They can't afford for their insurance to increase for the 40th time this year. It's not okay. And they play it off, and they sit in their nice homes with their $100,000 cars and their $1 million mansions, and they go, oh no, you guys will be fine. You only have the job you have because you can afford to have it. They make $60,000 to $80,000 a year. In the town of Gilbert, if that was their only job, if they weren't retired, if they didn't have some other income coming in, they would be just like we are, upset, ranting on Facebook, ranting on their pages, saying we can't afford this. But no, they've already succeeded in life. They've already done what they had to do. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Glad that they're living a good life. Glad they've got it all together. But not everybody does. And not everybody should have to suffer because they haven't had 60 years to get their life together. You know, when the average age of our city council is in their 60s, that's a problem. That's only the older people, the people that can afford to be on the town council, that are there. You know, if I was to join town council right now, say I went out, ran for mayor, and I won tomorrow, and I get my nice $80,000 a year salary, I wouldn't even be middle class. Wouldn't even be middle class. I wouldn't be able to afford to live in Gilbert if I worked for town council right now, and I was the sole breadwinner in my family. Much less, have kids, take them to daycare, pay medical bills, God forbid anything happens. That sets you back $1,000. Most of the people in Gilbert right now, they can't afford $1,000 hit. They don't have money in their savings account anymore. Their savings account has been drowned through the last 4 years of inflation, rising gas, rising house, rising utility, everything, all these bad things. And we're supposed to take care of each other. Our town council is supposed to do what's in our best interest. Is it our best interest to be kicking half of our citizens out because they can't afford to live here? Because someone else comes in and they take up that house and they can afford to live here until they can't. Until they're forced out just like everybody else has been. It's not okay. I don't find it okay. Most of the people I talk to, 99% of them don't find it okay. But everybody just goes, there's nothing we can do about it. There is. We can go out there. We can say no. We can vote. We can sit down and talk with these people. We can attend every bi-weekly meeting that they have at the Gilbert Town Council. I'll put the calendar in the description where you can find the calendar. I'll put the dates, the times, the next bills that they're going to be signing in. I'll make sure all of that is public information for every Gilbert citizen. It shouldn't just be for the elite people who have the time to show up to these things, or the couple of people that actually go and say, hey, we're not okay with this. I've been going out myself, and I've been doing, community resource things where I go out and I talk to people. I go out and I volunteer. I get involved with the community. I get involved in my neighborhoods. I get involved with the schools. I've been going out. I put in a request for a ride along with Gilbert Police Department. I passed my FBI background check. I passed my fingerprints. I passed every hoop that they put up so that people like me can't get in. Did everything I needed to do. And the commander comes back and denies me. I put in a request to tour the police station. The first guy I talked to, nicest guy possible. He's helping me out. He's telling me we can do this, we can do that, we can set this up for you. He says I'll contact you back in a couple of days and we'll set it up. We'll set up the tour. He contacts me back and he tells me, oh, the commander denied your request. Why is the commander denying my request? Is it possibly because I exposed them on Facebook on Go Gilbert for the $21 million of taxpayer fraud that they didn't report? Their $77 million budget that wasn't $77 million. They lied to us. They posed it as $77 million. It was $97.6 million that they spent of our taxpayer dollars and didn't tell us about. Didn't report to us. You go on Google right now, what was Gilbert Police's budget 2024? And you're reading it says 77. But if you go through their town audit that they do every year, you can see that it's not 77, it's 97. So what happened? What happened to the $20 million that they didn't disclose to us? Where did that go? What did they spend it on? Was it the $2 million of overtime that they needed? To handle the Gilbert goons? A case that wasn't even in Gilbert. It's in Queen Creek. Unfortunately, the person that passed away in Queen Creek, not Gilbert. Why is Gilbert footing the bill for that? Why does Gilbert need all this money for community resources, but they're not? You go through their audit, it breaks down every dollar they spent. You know how much money they spent on community outreach in 2024? Big fat zero. $0 they spent on coming to us and talking with the youth, talking to the families affected. But they get a $20 million sum of money that no one knows what happened to? Why did they deny my request for that information? Why can't they explain where that money went? Why have they tried to censor me on it? Why is the Go Gilbert admin, deleted my post trying to expose them about this? It's not political. It doesn't break their TOS, and I've gone through their TOS. You know what their explanation was? Oh, the list is too long. We can't post everything in the TOS. What was wrong? What did I break in the TOS? Oh, they don't respond to me after that? This is unfair. This is waste. This is fraud. This is them taking me, you, your mother, your grandma, your sister, your brother, our tax dollars, and throwing it in an incinerator. An incinerator that nobody knows where it goes. Nobody has the gall to tell us where it's going. Because, they're a little scared. It's their paycheck on the line. Okay, it's our monthly taxes on the line. We give them money with the expectation that they're going to spend it on what we expect them to spend it on. If we say, hey, we want the roads fixed, and 50% of us come out and say that, the roads should be fixed. If we come out and say, hey, we don't want this $500 increase in water from this first increase. God knows what it'll be by the end of the year. Maybe a $2,000 increase if they do it quarterly. But no, we don't want this $500 increase. We'd rather you guys foot the bill for the next 12 years and pay off the $72 million of interest. But no, even when we do say that's what we want, they don't care. They don't take our opinions into consideration. They don't listen to us. They do what they want to do. And because not enough of us know this, or none of us have the time or the information needed to know these things, we don't know what they're doing with this money. Why is it raising so high? Where are they sending this money? Who's really getting this money? Why? It doesn't make sense to me, and it shouldn't make sense to anybody else either. I expect this week, what is it going to be? The 25th of March 25th, 6:30. Gilbert Town Council holds their next Town Council meeting. I will be there. I'll be there at 5:30 if anybody would like to talk before we go in. And I'll sit there and we can all come together and we can tell them no. If we get enough people to come fill that room, if we get enough people together to say no to them, they have to listen. And what are they going to do? They're going to say, oh, kick them out. Get the police, tell them to get out of here. Okay. We'll ask the police officers when they come in what was spent with that $20 million. What happened to it? What did you guys do with it? Will they answer us then? It's ridiculous. It's tiring. I'm tired. Everybody I talk to is tired. We're done with it. We're done with these rates being these rates rising. We're completely done with it. And I don't mean to just blabber on for 25 minutes and just talk about this over and over and over again, hitting the same point. But it's not okay. It is not okay for them to do this to us. They hurt the most sensitive people we have in our communities the most. And they do it with a smile on their face. It's not okay. We need to put an end to it. We need to tell them no. This cannot continue. This ends with me, you, and everybody else in this town getting together and telling Gilbert Town Council no. No to whatever they decide they want to do. It shouldn't be what they want to do. 7 people shouldn't decide what happens to 280,000. It should be our vote. It should be what we think. And you know what? Maybe they should start televising, like most other town councils in the United States. Start televising every single one of their meetings. If you can't attend, If you can't figure out where they post these town council meetings, it'll be right there on your TV so you can watch it. These are the things we need to do for our community, because otherwise you're just building a divide. You're making the top 1% of our community happy. Well, you're hurting the bottom 99% of our community. That's not okay. We can't continue like this. If they force half of us out, what are we going to do? If half of us have to foreclose on our mortgages, if half of us have to deal with these rates being rising every 3 months, what can we do? I'll be there. The 25th of March, 5:30 p.m., I will be there. We can talk about this. I can show you my findings. I can show you the fraud. I can show you the waste, and I can show you the abuse. And if anybody at all wants more information, please reach out. Slade Hool on Facebook, Gilbertsbrightfuture@gmail.com. Please reach out to me, and I'll talk to anybody that wants to listen. Anybody that has questions. Anybody that needs more knowledge on these things. Because they're only hurting us. It must stop. We need to put an end to it. I don't mean to rant. Unfortunately, we didn't have a town council this meeting, so I don't have an exact topic to talk about. But it's got to stop. It has to stop. Thank you for watching. I'll be back same time next week. We'll see how this next town council meeting goes. And like I said, if you have any questions, reach out, please. Gilbertsbrightfuture@gmail.com or Slade Hool on Facebook.